Welcome back to The Upgrade, the hotel news now, Europe, Middle East and Africa podcast. Welcome back. I'm so happy you're here. I'm Terence Baker, HNN's news editor for that region. As always, I'm ably assisted by producer Patrick Skillicorn. And this month, we're going to talk about all things hotel and resort design. Very excited. We haven't had a design podcast as yet, so here we are today. And I'm very happy. Also, we're going to have our first sort of podcast tag team. We have two guests today. We have Sharon Grob, a partner at Studio Moren, and her colleague, David Harte, who's co-head of interiors. Welcome. How are you both?
Very well, thank you.
Thanks for having us.
My pleasure. Absolutely our privilege. For firms' website, Studio Moren is a veritable who's who of hotel firms and brands, and growing in London as well. We're going to touch on that because the notion of luxury in London, guest preferences, architecture, interior design, all things London. It's one of the hottest markets in Europe. It is the hottest market in Europe and one of the hottest markets in the world, I imagine. So, welcome. First of all, let's just talk about what is the new luxury. Luxury hotels are dominating London, they're dominating Europe. What is the new luxury and how do you cater to the new generations coming in and buying luxury hotels?
New luxury isn't necessarily something that is replacing old luxury. It's kind of come in and sits alongside what we would call classic luxury. It's no longer about formal service and large guest rooms or extensive public spaces. It's more about, an experience that guests have and making sure that it really, fits with and works with the younger guest profile and demographic.
I mean, there'll always be a place for classic luxury, and we're still seeing that with the Park Hyatt, aren't we?
Yes, absolutely. And also with Hyde. So one of our recent openings is Hyde London City, and that's very much that new approach to luxury. The rooms are much smaller, but it still maintains that level of detail, that finesse, the service, and the luxurious soft product that a guest in a luxury hotel expects.
I mean, London must be a fascinating city for this because obviously it's 2 millennia old. But yet it is an international hub. It is on the cutting edge of everything. Do you need, it's hotel by hotel, I imagine, but how do you look at that authenticity that guests want, yet all the luxury modernity they also require? Is that pulling at you from two different directions?
Yeah, it is really pulling from two different directions. Working on projects, like Hyde or Park Hyatt, London River Thames, it's really trying to meld that guest experience, the client's expectations and brief, and also the brand's expectation and brief, pulling all of these things together to create a contemporary experience that meets the modern day guest's needs, but also delivering on budget and hitting the brand's expectations as well, making sure that we align with those.
And Sharon, I mean, when you look at hotels, you've got the owners have an idea. You certainly have an idea. I mean, this is what you do every day. The guests have an idea what they want. How do you look at a project and cater to that, but yet still come up with something that's going to make the pages of Architectural Digest or whatever?
It's a fine line. It's a real balance. We are hospitality specialists, and I think that's how it separates us from other designers who are more residential based, in that we do have to balance the needs of an operator who has brand standards, and we do have to satisfy the needs of an owner who's got their pet project. And pet project's a bit dismissive, I shouldn't say that. Sometimes we have an individual client and it's very much a trophy. It's passionate for that individual client. And then increasingly we see private equity and institutional owners. And for them, it's about the ADR. Does it stack up? They're at different points in the market. It's about getting more rooms in. But when you're looking at the luxury end of the market, it's how do we add value for the client? How do we find that sweet spot where the rooms are big enough and grand enough that they can charge the right rate and hit their ADRs that a city like London demands, without compromising, making sure we get that return for the owner. It's a balance, and we walk that line every day and nurture those relationships, particularly with the design teams at the brands.
Is it about smaller rooms now? Because obviously that might help ADR or at least revenue. But of course, London has all these grand buildings that probably don't work to that.
Case by case, it really is. I mean, one hotel, Mayfair, we reduced the key count and made the rooms bigger. And I believe we're back in there again to make a couple more suites bigger because the demand for these big grand rooms has stretched. But Hyde, you can talk a bit more about Hyde. They're really small rooms.
Really, really tight rooms. But like I said earlier, it's very much about how you service that guest's needs and bringing in those finer touches. So it's really answering to the client's brief and making sure that we're hitting whatever their expectations are and getting them the best value, I think, like Sharon said.
It really is. London's such an expensive market. For someone to come in here, they have to work with what's here. And it has to, every project is unique. We have to deal with the owner, with the brand, and get the best out of the asset that we can for them.
And brand standards, we've heard there's some relaxation, brand standards, because of whatever came out of COVID, whatever came out of cost of living crisis, or whatever it might be. Are you seeing that, or are they still coming down at you like a ton of bricks?
They'll never go away.
No, they won't. But I think it's about...
Nor should they.
No, they shouldn't. And because that's what essentially maintains the guest experience. That's what those brand standards are there for. It's for ensuring that you get that consistency across product. I think they have softened in a positive way, though, in a really positive way. There's much more open dialogue, I think, now than there ever has been between owners, designers and brands to make sure that we all work together and collaborate and really achieve the best product we can get within the means of what's available, be it the building or the client's budget.
And David and his team really work hard on those relationships with the owner and with the operator, and letting the owner know where they can push back against the brand and where they can't. That's the room size. You've got to have that room size. That's a non-negotiable. Mm-hmm. Or this is, we know which ones there might be a bit of wriggle room and which ones there aren't. And frankly, if the brand want a key trophy asset, they will be flexible.
Absolutely, they will.
And in London, the lobby, the public spaces, I mean, that's another trend we've seen, but everyone's out of their minute rooms. They want to spend, hoteliers want them to spend time in the lobbies. You seen that in traditional London?
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. Lobbies and public spaces, I think, are becoming more and more important, especially where room sizes are being squeezed. People want to sit together, gather, collaborate, have a space that they can enjoy and, feel the environment and feel the locale in which they're sitting. It's no longer about that cookie cutter design, which I think we would have had historically. It's really about telling stories and narrative, and a public area can really do that and support that guest experience. We'll talk a little bit more detail about some of the projects you're doing in London. Our dear friends from America apparently are getting richer and richer. Maybe we always feel that about our American friends, but this is what we hear in the industry. They're coming back to Europe in large numbers. They have the money. Now, I assume this is the same for all populations where they are from. The older generations might be a bit more traditional. The younger ones may not be. What are you seeing in terms of that wealth coming here and what they're acquiring in London hotels? I think there's a very big, you say USA, I think the expectation of luxury varies drastically across the world based on region and demographic. So it's not necessarily a USA specific thing. I think there's definitely an age thing in there as well. Classic luxury is still very much alive across the world, and it has a very specific demographic.
China as well.
Yes.
Chinese tourism makes up a huge amount of the sort of projection that group travel from China is starting to come back. It's been slower, but the Chinese want luxury, and they want it as we used to know it. So there's always going to be a place for that. Yeah, we're seeing that. I was at the World Travel Market a few weeks ago, and there was a whole session on a Chinese traveller coming back. Everyone's just waiting for that moment. And of course, they have decided needs, maybe F&B more than other things, but they do. Obviously, everyone's different. Well, let's talk about some of your London projects. You're quite gung-ho. You're quite proud of the fact that you do design a lot of firsts for London. Without selling yourself too much, tell me about some of the projects. I mean, it's Hyde Park, it's a 9 Elms development, you built the Shangri-La, of course. Tell me sort of how you've grown in London and how you see it. Are you enjoying yourself?
Yeah, we are. I think we really enjoy what we do. We love what we do, I think, as a team. And yeah, we're very, very lucky that we've had the opportunity to work on some really exciting projects, like you say, Hyde London City, which opened very recently, Park Hyatt Nine Elms. You mentioned the Shangri-La at the Shard as well, where we were executive architects, hotel architects. It's a real privilege to be able to work on these projects, many of which are flagships for the brand in the UK and sometimes in region or globally. So it's really important for us to understand their aspiration at the beginning of the project.
And of course, we did the first Westin in London as well, which was a massive project for us that took many, many years thanks to COVID. It took longer than it should have thanks to COVID. But that was, that had 5 historic monuments, listed monuments in it.
Yes, it did. Yeah.
With a Roman bath, and it's the oldest Anglo-Saxon port in the world, and it crosses a street in the middle of the city. But that was a first as well.
It sure was, and it was a really challenging build, like you say, with lots of different things at play throughout the design and construction period.
And in fact, David and I sometimes have different perspectives on what we do, because David is co-head of interior design, whereas I look at the entire practice. And a lot of the projects we've done hotel architecture rather than the interior design, and seeing different projects come up across the city is kind of fun. They're very different. So the build challenges on the Westin cannot be underestimated.
And the pressure must be huge, because these are statement hotels for these companies. Accor with Hyde, of course, and the others. Shangri-La and their first property in London. The pressure must be huge.
Yeah, the Park Hyatt's been a relief to see it looking so beautiful, and that was the first Park Hyatt in London. When you listen to Felicity Black-Roberts, she's always said how much she wants a Park Hyatt in London. It's taken a long time to get it, and there was always just the Regency at Portman Square. And I think everyone's very happy that it's...
she's vice president of Hyatt Corporation, in case people don't know. Everyone knows who Felicity is, I imagine.
Sorry, a name drop.
Indeed. But so tell me about that one hotel then, Park Hyatt. How did the brief come in? How did you look at it? What did you create, and how's it going? Let's just look at one project as a kind of test of what brilliance you brought to London.
It was a really interesting brief to get, obviously, coming in as hotel architects to work on what is Park Hyatt's first property in London, trying to delivering. I think we've finished the project now. It's very much delivering that level of excellence for our owner and for the brand. Really was a challenge, but we are used to challenges, and that's part of what we do. We're proud of delivering such a project.
And we do a lot of work in Africa and some in the Middle East as well. And we're used to working on scale, because they have the space. In London, it's really a privilege to be able to build something of the scale at Park Hyatt. I don't know if you've seen it yet, but it's vast.
But that helps, because the Nine Elms area is I'm old enough to remember when there was nothing there.
Wasn't it Battersea back then?
Right, Battersea Village. But so you obviously had a little bit more space there, did you? A little bit more ability to run riots?
Yeah,
that's the right word?
It's got massive triple height ceilings in the atrium. It's got a huge swimming pool flooded with natural light. And most luxury hotels in London have pools tucked away in the basement. And they sort of have to be there because it's a luxury hotel. But nobody wants to go to the basement to hang out in a small pool. The luxury of having all this space at Nine Elms is really a privilege. US Embassy is obviously relocated there, and our client on this is Chinese client. So this also it meets the expectations of that international traveller who go to a Park Hyatt and expect an iconic space. We didn't do the interior design of the hotel, that was super potato, but we did do the interior design of the signature wine library. And it's your team. I can't talk about design.
Yeah, it's again a real privilege to be brought in later in the project and to have the opportunity to input into such a fantastic hotel. The Destination Wine Bar is a couple of levels up and has some fantastic views across the river and across London, like most of the hotel does. The generosity of space, like Sharon said, is something that is really unusual in a new building in London, and it was a privilege to be part of that and to be able to input in creating some spaces that they really do stand out in comparison to the rest of the hotel market in London.
And then the Hyde at 15 Old Bailey, it's a very famous area for people who don't know. That's where you go if you get in trouble with the law, not to your hotel, but that general area. That was a conversion from office spaces, I believe. Tell me a bit about that project.
Harte is something, again, like Park Hyatt, that we're very, very proud of. Yes, it was converted from office, but actually the hotel was built about 150 years ago as a hotel first. Oh. It was London's first hotel with power, with electricity. So it was a real privilege to be able to come in and bring the hotel back to what it was built as originally.
Really, we were just left with a shell because the office conversions over the years were not particularly sympathetic. So we managed to sort of restore some elements of the reimagine what it would have been, the Victorian elements of it.
Yes, absolutely. The interior design scheme takes inspiration, in particular for the guest rooms, from various elements of the Victorian era, which, is a real nice homage to the history of the building and the heritage of the building.
And we had some fun with it. I mean, the Timorous Beasties, we have to give a shout out to Timorous Beasties and that wall covering. They're inspired by Darwin, so there are all sorts of surprising little Victorian references throughout.
Yes. Some beautiful details in the most unexpected of places, which is, what we always strive to try and achieve, create that smile on a guest's face when they unlock their door.
And that's, back to it's the first Hyde brand in the UK, but it's the Hyde ethos is playful and it's fun. And taking a Victorian building and putting that playful brand in was kind of, that's where brand standards are a help. Because you know what the brand's supposed to be, but you've got wide parameters to play within it.
I need to come and see this hotel. My wife, Francesca, and I, we just bought a Victorian flat and we're renovating. We literally ripped up the whole floor. And all we're seeing now is the rubbish for previous builders left in the joists on the floor. Can you imagine? Yeah. I don't think you get any of that kind of wonderful stuff, but there's coffee cups. Oh my goodness. Yeah. So it's always surprises all the time.
Well, I can tell you, knowing your interest in music, you'll like the basement bar as well. Black Lacquer is inspired by the Japanese listening bars. So it's full of vinyl records with DJ and it's using every inch of space in that very small floor plate and driving it with food and beverage as well. So that the basement bar is very rock and roll.
That's a great example of a traditional becoming modern, because as we all know, vinyl is being sold by the lorry load.
Everything old is new again.
Absolutely.
It sure is.
You don't need to mention specific hotels in this question, but how has the interest rates and the sort of economic challenges changed over the last couple of years? And has that helped you? Has it helped us? I don't think it's helped anyone, has it? It's been hard though. I think it's brought to the fore why you would use a dedicated or a hospitality specialist for your architecture and your interior design when building a hotel or when developing a hotel. We all know interest rates have been hard, and it's been very low transactions up until the last 12 months have been better. Interest rates have stabilized, if not dropped down. And I think the bid-ask spread between owners and vendors and buyers and sellers is narrowing. So we're seeing more transactions happening. But the onus is really on us to make every inch of that hotel sweat and deliver value to the owner. There are narrow margins and high risks in hospitality. If you're developing a hotel, having someone that you can trust to actually know how to make a hotel that works has helped us. So has it helped us? Probably, because we are seen as a safe pair of hands. But we'd all rather a low interest rate environment where money's cheap, right? And there certainly hasn't been any cheap buildings or any distress that people might have said would have come out of COVID, but never did.
If it was a good asset before, it was a good asset now.
And if it was a good management company before, it was a good management company now, as we know. Tell me a few things, David, perhaps about your interests and work overseas. You mentioned a few, you have larger spaces to play with us. But tell me what you're doing abroad, for instance.
Absolutely. So we actually have quite a few projects abroad at the moment. Notably, we're working in the Hyatt Regency in Rome, in the city centre, which is hopefully going to be opening next year.
Fantastic rooftop pool, right?
Yes, fantastic. The largest rooftop pool in Rome. So that will be, it's a refurbishment. So it's a challenging project, but really, really rewarding. So we're very excited to see that open next year.
Well, I mentioned Francesca, my wife. I'm going to mention her again because she's a Roman. So, and we were there just recently, weren't
Yes,
we?
we were.
Yeah, Italian Hotel
we
Investment
were.
Conference.
We were, absolutely.
Nicer weather than today.
Yes.
And you're working in Georgia.
In Georgia,
That's
yes.
a hot political topic.
My goodness,
it
yes.
is. Yes, a fantastic
Tell all.
project in Georgia. So we started working on it, I think it was 2019 actually. So it's been going quite some time.
That's an autograph collection.
Yes, it's an autograph collection project with Marriott. It's set in a very remote pine forest in the heart of Georgia. The design and narrative is all inspired by the local area. There's some astrological observatories. There's connections to the Romanov dynasty. It really is a fantastic property. But you speaking about space, this hotel is incredibly generous in its space. It only has 147 keys, but out from that we have a spa with over 20 treatment rooms, indoor and outdoor relaxation spaces, a rooftop deck that actually will allow the guest to enjoy what the town Abastomani is most known for, which is being able to see the sky. It's one of the darkest places in Europe. So telling all of that story and narrative throughout our design is something that's so important to all of us at Studio Moren.
So when you work so much in London, when you get a project like that in Georgia, I mean, do your eyes wide open, or are you still under the same pressures from owners and etc. to make the building sweat, as you said, Sharon?
I think with the generosity of space we have in projects like Abastomani, it does make it easier in a sense that we can maybe push bigger ideas that smaller spaces wouldn't be able to work with. But there's still all of the same challenges that we face in projects in London, such as budget, working with our clients' expectations, making sure that we hit the brief, and also, like we mentioned earlier, working with brand and making sure that we really hit all of those points. Ultimately, for us, it's not about creating a beautiful project. It's about creating a beautiful project that hits the client's brief and that works.
And what is the greatest challenge, would you say, now then, in terms of doing what you do?
Oh, that's a really good question.
What is the greatest challenge?
I think being unique is definitely a challenge. But we pride ourselves on having a unique approach to every project that we do. And I think that's what makes us so adaptable and makes it so easy for us to work across the regions we work in, because we start by looking at what's around the property or around the site and how we can pull that and inspire something that has longevity, but also inspire something that's really different and something that people haven't experienced before.
Is that always a fail-safe way to look at it? Look at what the community has and then make that part of your luxury offering? Or are we just all becoming far too comfortable with that notion, and by the time you open it, luxury's moved or guest preferences are moved?
I think we are safe working in that way. Not to say we can't innovate, which we do. We're constantly pushing ourselves as designers, both with design, sustainability, and functionality as well, because ultimately as designers, we have to make sure our spaces work. But it really is, for us, a way of creating spaces, like I mentioned, that have fantastic longevity. If they're grounded in something that's real and genuine and authentic, it enables that design to speak to the guest and to the area in which the property sits.
And one of the greatest changes I've seen in my quarter of a century doing this is the way that hotels are extensions of communities. I mean, never used to be, did they? You used to walk past a hotel restaurant and look in and think, oh, okay, that's another life. I'll never be part of that. At least I did, coming from Southeast London.
Yeah.
But that's one of the huge changes, isn't it? I mean, you've got to get those local craftspeople, local mixologists, whatever, into your hotels.
Yeah, people travel much more than they used to, and they want a sense of place. They want to arrive and feel like, Tuesday it's London. No, they want to look out the window or look downstairs and know that it feel like they're in London. I remember as a child traveling with my father. As soon as we'd check into any hotel, he'd be like, "No, we're not eating here." Now you'd possibly choose the hotel because of the food and bev offering. And
when the notion also was that people would come over with a fixed product in mind. They'd come over from country A and stay at country A's hotels wherever they are in the world. Do those mid-block hotels but mid-scale, it's usually a mid-scale legacy brand. Are they still being designed in the same way?
I think that's a really interesting question. I read the most recent JLL outlook, and something like 50% of the market of invest capital targeting hotels is going to luxury or upper upscale, and about 20% is going to select service. I think the middle is a problem for the brands, in that why would you spend £200 on an anonymous cookie cutter mid-scale hotel when you could spend half that and have a select service and go next door to a coffee shop, or spend a bit more and have a genuine experience? I think that middle section is challenging, but it will never disappear. There's always going to be need for reliability.
They say groups coming back slowly. As somebody, I think Ellie Malouf on a call the other day said it was 15%, I believe, of business in that area. They generally like those kind of hotels.
They do.
But maybe their preferences are changing, or luxury hotels are going for those groups where before they may not have done.
I think that's right. And as we mentioned earlier, what is luxury? It's changed. It's a much broader spectrum than what it was 20 years ago.
I mean, for some people, it can just be, leave me alone, let me...
Space and service,
Exactly.
tablecloths, chandeliers, lots of marble. Other people, it's fine linens and a great restaurant. I remember years ago reading Isidore Sharp's biography about Four Seasons, and his idea with Four Seasons. London Park Lane Four Seasons was the first outside of the US. In fact, might have been the first outside of Canada. I'm not sure. And he said a Four Seasons guest should feel like they're in a Four Seasons every single time. And the room, and I think that's where a lot of the brand standards came from, and that you should know exactly what's going to be in the room. I think that's gone, but you should still feel a thread, the DNA of a Four Seasons when you're at a Four Seasons. And I think that goes for all the brands. There's a DNA of the brand. It's not going to be identical to the one that you were in last week, but it will have a thread.
No, you're entirely right there, Sharon. It is very much about making sure that you have that feeling. It's about feeling. It's about emotion. The brands, the design of a property, of a hotel, should evoke emotion. And if you are entering a property, whether it's in London or Paris or Milan or Hong Kong, you should still feel that same emotion, even if the design is different. You should still feel that, and that informs your experience and what you remember.
So you're still feeling a huge amounts of excitement to be in this industry?
Absolutely.
If I could put you on the spot, you don't need to mention hotel brands, you don't need to mention anything. Where would you like to work? Where would be one place you'd both like to work? Radio hates silence, guys. Thailand. Okay.
Thailand. I love that part of the world. I'd love to work in Southeast Asia.
Chiang Mai or somewhere in the middle of nowhere. Yeah.
And
David?
I think I'd like to try New York. Another one of the world's greatest cities.
Yes.
I love New York, love London, so it would be fantastic, I think, to try somewhere similar but very different.
It's a city in my heart. It was home for me for 20 years, New York. Sharon, David, thank you so much. This has been so interesting. I think the success and longevity of hotel interior design and architecture is safe in your hands. Thank you so much for listening. As always, there's lots more material on Hotel News Now's website. We hinted at a couple of stories during this conversation with Sharon and David. Chinese travellers are on their way back. It's just a matter of when, but they're moving. But 2 years ago, they were domestic in China. Last year, they were in Southeast Asia. Now they're coming back around the world, and their needs have changed dramatically. Also, I mentioned the CEO of Intercontinental Hotel and Resorts, Ellie Malouf, was speaking at Barclays Eat, Sleep, Play, Shop conference a couple of days ago in New York. That might still be going on today. And he has a lot of great things to say about the state of the hotel industry, its health, the new Trump administration, tax reforms in the States, and his buoyancy, his optimism of the industry. A couple of sadder news items this year. We lost a couple of titans in the industry. First was the travel guide writer Arthur Thromer, who many of you would have used his books and his family's books when you're traveling around the world. He died at 95 years of age, and he was absolutely tantamount to getting people traveling around the world. He had his first guide, I think it was How to Travel Around Europe Cheaply, in 1957. So that was an empire. Sadly, we lost him. We also lost Melia International's Gabriel Escara Julia, excuse my Spanish. He died at 90 years old. The family is still running that hotel company. It's morphed from a few different things, Sol Melia and Hotasa, I remember back in the day. But the company's still going strong. And he was absolutely a pioneer as well in terms of opening new markets, places like Cuba, Dominican Republic, obviously places in Spain where they're from, Mallorca and Ibiza, etc. And also there's still been hotel deals. EMEA Hospitality for 300 million euros, reputedly, bought the Bauer Hotel in Venice. And that's one of the biggest deals we've seen in 2024. So thank you as always for listening. I'm ably assisted, as I said, by Patrick Skillicorn. Thank you so much. And if we had data, which I don't, we had too much data today, that's usually provided by STR's William Anns. It's been a pleasure chatting with you. Please read our pages. Thank you again, Sharon and Dave, for your time, and we'll see you next time on The Upgrade.
Hi, I'm STR's Isaac Colazo.
And I'm co-star Jan Freitag, and together we are the data geeks behind Tell Me More, a hospitality data podcast on the Hotel News Now podcast network.
Every month, we bring you a fresh take on the latest hotel data, insight into the travel trends behind that performance, and the big picture topics you should be thinking about.
And we don't mind getting into good-natured disagreements from time to time. Hey, when Isaac and I start talking about data together, anything can happen, and it usually does.
Find us on hotelnewsnow.com and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you like to listen. Search for Hotel News Now, and thank you for listening.
This episode of The Upgrade was recorded in December of 2024 and edited by Patrick Skillicorn. Look for this and more at hotelnewsnow.com.